Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. This is day 6 of Oracle integration training. In this session, we will learn about Oracle integrations, basic navigations, and the integration page, canvas, all the elements available in integrations. Then we will learn that assign in OIC, that with the help of assign, we are going to create variables that we are going to learn. And in last, we will learn about switch action in OIC. With the help of switch, we can add conditions in our integration. So let's move to that first, that the basic navigations, and then we will move to that actions and all. So you can see this is our first the integration page. When we are creating integrations, we are getting this page. So this is the place which we are considering as a designer page or the canvas where we have to draw all these elements which on which we have to work. There you can see this side we have the actions and error handling endpoints. This is the error checking, this is the notifications, and all these are the navigation. So let's move to that OIC instance and let's see one by one to all these endpoints. So this is our Oracle integration generation 3. And now I'm going to design, and design we have integration. So let's open any of the integration and we'll see that how that integration is going to work. So for example, let me open or edit any of the integration. So this is the integration, it's already in that configure. So let me edit this one. So when this integration will be edited, we will be able to see the navigations and all. So you can see this is the page where we are designing or drawing our integrations applications, and all these are considered as an endpoint. So this is a start, that this is a trigger endpoint, this is the stop endpoint, this is the logger, and there can be mappers and all. And you can see this is the place, the ribbon where you can change the design of canvas from horizontal to vertical, vertical to horizontal. And obviously we can go for that outline view where we will get the details about the each and every endpoint. And here you can see we have one more option to just maximize or minimize the endpoint, which all we all having in our integrations. These two options are for cut, copy, paste, which we will cover in our upcoming sessions. And now you can see in the below we have option to make that canvas page zoom in, zoom out. And yes, we can, if you want, we can make it in fit full all the screens. And obviously we have another option to make it zoom out, zoom in, and all these things. Few options are there just to check where you have to navigate and all. So instead of coming here, you can navigate by just click on that anywhere in the canvas and just scroll here and there. In the left hand side, right hand side, you will be able to see the first one is the connection list. So where you will be able to see all the connections created in the system. Go below, you will be see the actions. So by here we have list of actions, which action one by one we will cover in our upcoming sessions. You can say this is assign action to create variables. This is assign B2B actions to perform that the invoking the B2B application by converting the data file format EDI to integration format and integration format to EDI and all. This is data stitch to update global variables values. This is healthcare endpoint or actions, which we will cover. We are not going to cover, but yes, in lesson 3, they go in one more thing. This is logger, which we already use. This is mapper, stage file, notifications, and many more, right? Error handling part, logic, which means that loop, switch statement for adding conditions and all. Also, we have call, which will help us to invoke another integration from our one integration, which is integration. We have file server, JavaScript functions we can directly call from here. We have created publish two integrations and all this endpoint here. It's already there. Returns, fault, and all many more. This is similar. So in upcoming days, we will use one by one, right? So here you can see this is the X icon where we can create global variable. This is the item we can search all the endpoints in our integrations by name, providing the name and all. And now you can see this is the message. This is the icon. By clicking here, you will move to the global fault handler. We will learn this global fault handler too in our upcoming sessions. This is the icon which help us to add the business identifier in integration. And for that, we have this setting icon where we can change the information of integration, just like name, packages, and the versions and all. Version we cannot change, but yes, name, packages, and description we can add. Now, this is the basic overview of integrations. And now go back to that slide, and we'll discuss that assign. So assign is the action action in OIC. With the help of assign, we can create variable in OIC. With the help of assign, we can update the value of that variable created using assign. So you know that the variable is something that which is going to hold values at runtime. So in integration, we have to flow the data from one endpoint to another endpoint. Sometimes we have to store the data in somewhere so that later we can use the data. So for giving all this flexibility, that assign action is going to use. So in simple term, that assign action is used to create variables and assign values to that variable created using assign action. It's allow you to manipulate data or that we can update the value available in that assigned variable by setting values, performing calculations, and mapping data between variables and target fields during the integration. So in the mapping, we can use variables to provide the values at runtime from that variable. So that kind of things we can use. By default, data type of assigned variable is a string, and you can store up to 10,000 character in that string variable. That a string variable created using assign. And also that global variable also having the same character limit. And when we are creating variable using that assign action, that variable cannot be accessible in global fault. So what is global fault? We will cover in upcoming session. It is something that error handling part. Assign variables can store one value at a time. And obviously, if you want to store multiple values, you cannot do in assign. But yes, that's why we have global variables. So with the help of global variable, you can achieve the solution where we have to store multiple values to the single variable. And when you will assign the same value to that variable, another value to the same variable, it will replicate or it will remove the previous variable values available in the variable and it will assign new value to that variable. And you can say this is the design where we are creating the variable in our integration. In simple term, with the help of assign, we can perform two actions that can be creating variables or providing default values. Another action can be that we have to update the variables value. With the help of assign also, we can achieve that. So this is about action, that assign action which we have to use in our integration. And now another one is we have switch. So in OIC, we are using switch to add the condition in integration flow. So in integration, if we want to add the flow execution based on some conditions, we can use a stitch. So when we are going to use a stitch, so in a stitch, there are 2 points, that is the root and otherwise. Root is something that's defining that the conditions, otherwise is something that if all condition will false, automatically control will move inside the otherwise block. So it is just like if else block. So in OIC, if you want to achieve if else kind of concept, you have to go for switch action or switch activity. And while when we are adding switch in our OIC, it's mandatory to have a default, or that we can say the otherwise block. So otherwise block will execute when all condition will false. And whatever variables and values we will create inside the scope, that can be the switch scope or that the otherwise scope, that will be not accessible outside the scope. So yeah, that's the concept of a scope, so which we will learn day by day. And yes, when we will add switch, so in a single switch there can be multiple conditions. That condition is known as root in OIC switch, and but there will be only one otherwise block. So let's move to the integration instance and we'll see that how we can achieve this variable and the assign action. So this is our integration page. Let me create one new integration. So what that integration will do, the integration will take two values and one more values, the third values as operations. And based on that, it will decide that they have to do the perform operation as addition or subtraction. So that kind of things we are going to do. So in simple term, in app, we will create one app-driven integration where we will create three variable. That obvious in app-driven integration, when we have to create variable, that variable is that can be the query parameters or that can be the review or template parameters. So let's go to the integration creation. So click on create. And here you have to select the application to create app-driven integration and you have to give the name. So I will use the name as FOAS underscore. This is going to be app-driven integration. So before that, I will give the name as int001 underscore AP for app-driven. And this is for assign. So I will use assign and switch underscore 01. Right, so this is our integration name. So I'm just going to click on create. So I want to configure this integration to have three parameters so that we can provide values. So what three parameters value can be there? So I want to provide the values like num1, num2, and the third parameters will be like operations, what operation they want to perform. So for that I have to create three variables. So I will go click on plus. At first I have to add the REST trigger connection so that we can configure the parameters and all. So I have created integration with the name FOAS underscore. You can see that's the REST tree. So I will select here. And now here we have to give the endpoint name. So this endpoint is going to start the integration. So I will use start. And this is REST endpoint. So I will use REST. Now click on continue. And now here we have to provide the source URL or the endpoint, right? So that it can use that endpoint. So what I will do, I will give that endpoint as /addition. And here we have to add two parameters. So I will use first parameter as num underscore 1 / second parameter num underscore 2. Right. And here the third parameter will be our operations, that is plus operation or minus operations, that is addition operation, subtraction or multiplication. But this is the concept of REST API or the URL, that in URL we cannot use plus operator, right? So if we will pass plus operator, it can create problem. So instead of using plus, so we'll create one variable, that's the query parameters, and that query parameters we will pass value as ADD for addition, SUB for subtraction, MUL for multiplication, and so on. So once you will click outside, automatically this tick will be added because we added the two review parameters. You can see when we move control outside this one, so automatically ticks added here. So instead of this gate, I will add a post. So every time I follow post only, so that later we can add the request and response payload too. So now it's done. I don't want to do any changes here. Just go and continue. So here you can see this is parameter configuration page where these two parameters already added, num1 and num2. And this num1 and num2 value will be numeric, so I will add as integer. Now I am going to add third variable, that will be our query parameters. I will give the name as operation. So p underscore operation, and here the data type, it will be a string. So why this will be a string? Because I will pass operation as add for addition, sub for subtraction and all. So now the parameters is created here. So I will just go and continue and done. So our endpoint added the trigger endpoint, and this trigger endpoint having the three parameters. And now based on that parameters, I want to add some logic, right? So I want to suppose there are first two variable, the two variable and the operation is add. So I want to add I want to do addition of the first two number. So obviously that addition we have to store somewhere, right? So that's why we require variable. So I am going to create a variable. So just click on the action. Here you can see this is the assign. So drag this assign here. This assign action is going to help us to create variables. So I will create first variable, and in the variable I will assign any dummy values. So for creating variable, we have plus icon here. Just click on this plus here. So I will give the name as var underscore result. So this is our variable name, and what kind of value this variable is going to store. So right now I will provide the value, default value as 0 instead of null. So for providing null value in the mapping or in the variable, so you just have to remove everything, just put single quotes. As I told you, the parameters, right? So whatever we are going to use, that can have the different data type, that can be number, integer, string and all. But in the variable created using assign having fixed data type, that is a string. That's why here we provided the single quotes. So now the var result will have null values. For the single quotes empty values, I will click here, this will be set, go outside. So with the endpoint, the variable created, now we have to update the value of this variable based on condition. If user will pass operation as add, we have to store addition of the two number in this variable. If the user provided value as minus, the operation as balanced, then we have to store the subtraction of the two number in this variable, that kind of thing. So now obviously we got to know that we have to add the conditions, we have to add the logic, right? For adding the condition, that's why we have switch actions. So click here on the action, go to the switch. So you can see this is switch. So I will drag this switch here. So once you will drag your switch here, you will be able to see this one, right? The switch scope added. And in the switch scope, they're asking for configure root. This is first root, right? So root is something that condition. So they are asking to add the conditions. So first I will change the give the name here. So this root name will be root add. So this will be work for additions. So I given the name as root add, and this is the condition we have to add. So the statement. So I want to compare on the template parameters. So if this template parameters value, that is O P underscore operation value, is equals to add, right? So I'm going to provide operation as a double d. So if the operation variable having value as a double d, then what you have to do? Just click outside. You have to add the otherwise block. So we came outside, but we are not able to see anything because by default there is only one. That's why it's not showing. So just click here, go to add and add otherwise. I told you the otherwise is mandatory for each and every switch condition. You have to add otherwise so that you will get to know that when that integration got error and doesn't have any values. So I will click on otherwise. So once you will click on otherwise, you can see the root one already added, which we given the values at root add, and the last one is otherwise. So I will add provide the value in otherwise later. So this is the first root, and first root what we want to do, we want to do the addition, right? So that's why in root one we added the check the condition, we added the condition to check the value as add, a double d add for addition, right? So if the condition will be true, it will go inside and do the addition, but that addition we have to store somewhere else, right? So that's why we created variable here, and we want to store the value of the addition in that variable. So for assigning the value to the variable, again we have to use the assign action. So I will go here, I will drag the assign again, and here we have to update the variable, right? We don't have to create the variable. So that's why for adding the variable value, just click here and you have to select the variable here only, so that you can be identify which variable we have to assign value. So what I will do, I will just remove this one, and here I will drag the variable. So the variable is var result. So I will drag the variable. So sorry, here we have to select the variable as var underscore result. So var result variable selected, and what value you have to assign to this var result? So I want to assign the value of addition of these two number, the num1 and num2, right? So what will be like that? It will be like bracket plus bracket, and this will be number one, and this will be number two. Second will be number two, right? So what we can do, we are inside this bracket. So just drag your number one inside the bracket only. So this is the mode. So I'll remove just because it was not in edit mode. So I will click here to make it edit mode. So I will put this inside the bracket. So this is the num1. Then we have to do the operation as a add. And now here we have to provide the another number in the bracket. So I will just go and drag here. So now here you can see this assign variable will hold the value of addition of these two numbers, that is num1 and num2. So num1 and num2 addition will be stored into that var result because it's coming from right to left. So whatever value will be there in the right side of that equals to will be shifted to left side of equals to. And now here I will give the name of this assignment. So assignment name is add. So I will give the name of assignment as assign underscore add. So that in logger we can identify this is the addition action, assign action for addition. Now one condition we added, right? So if user will pass sub, right? So sub is not equals to that a double d which is added in the root one. So control will automatically move to otherwise, right? But we don't want to do this one, right? We again want to add conditions. So just click here. Sorry. Just click here, go to the add and add another root. So once you will click on add another root, automatically add, as you can see, the configure root. So here you have to provide the name of the root. So I will click here. I will give the name of root is root root sub. That was for addition. It will be for subtraction. And here what we have to do, we have to add the condition based on which we have to check the condition. So I have to check the condition based on query parameters. So I will drag this query parameters here, and what value initially we want to assign, I don't want to assign any value. So I will put it null value by providing the double quotes. So now you can see, no. So we have to add the condition as operation is equals to sub, right? Sub for subtract. So sub sub. So now when operation variable value will be sub sub, then this root 2 will be executed, that is root sub. So just click outside so that it can save the configuration. And now you can see root 2 added with the name root sub, right? Subtract. So again we have to do the same. We have to assign the value to that variable as subtraction. So again here we have to add the variable, that is the assign variable or assign action. So this is the assign I'm just going to use. I will give the name as assign underscore sub, that is subtract. And here we have to select the variable for which variable we have to update the value. So I will click here. I will select our variable, that is var result. And what value we want to store in the var result? So we want to store the value in the var result is num1, which is in tablet parameter num1. Here we have to add the bracket, and where we have to give the operation as subtraction. This will be the second parameter, which will be take as num2. So now num1 and num2 added. If you will click here, you will be able to see the values. So var result will store the subtraction of these two numbers. Right, so that was our result. Now again we have to add one more condition to add the multiplication. So again so adding the endpoint or root again, we just have to click on the switch. Just go to add. And here again we have to add the root name. So I will click here, I will give the root name as root underscore mul for multiplication. Now this one added, and now we have to check the multiply operation or multiply values, right? So again here we have to select the variable on which we have to check the condition. So I have to check the condition on query parameters. I will drag the query parameters here, which is p operation is equals to what we have to check. We have to check the we have to check the value as multiplication. So for multiplication, I will pass mul. So now you can see our value condition will be p operation is equals to mul. So if this will be true, that is root mul will be true, then control will move inside this scope, inside the scope of this assign. So here again we have to select the variables. I will click on this plus, I will select the assign. And now here we have to select the variable for which we have to update the value. So I will click here. I will select the variable as var result, and here we have to provide the value. So what value we want to provide? We want to provide value for addition or multiplication of that two number. Right? So I will just here, let me see this one, right? So I will go num1, and it will not be subtract, right? It will be asterisk. So I will take it here, I will paste it here, and num2. So this 2 will be multiplied and it will be assigned to the variable. So you can see that var result is equals to num1 into num2. Whatever will be the value. Let me change the name of this assign. So I will give the name as assign underscore mul multiplication. So now click outside. So we added three conditions to check the addition, to check the subtraction, and to check the multiplication. So if suppose user pass any invalid value except these three, so control will automatically move here in the otherwise block. And in the otherwise block, let's display the message using a sign. So we will add that value to that variable. So that where result, and I want to provide the value to the where result is the operation to provided is not correct. The operation, the operator you provided is not correct, right? So now, in case of otherwise block, it means that when the operation will not be add, when operation will not be subtract, when operation will not be null, then control will automatically move the otherwise block and it will store the value to that variable. Now, if you will go outside this scope, right? So now when our integration will be completed, that integration will having one variable and it's taking three parameters from integration. So based on condition, this variable value will be updated by addition of the first two number from DAP or that multiplication, subtraction, anything, or in case of otherwise it will display the error message. So how we have to display the message? We have to display the message using logger. So I will drag the logger here. No, I don't want to display anything. I will just give the name as logger and underscore result. Click here and here we have to give the value, what value we want to display. So again, I will use the same hard-coded value. So instead of providing hard-coded values, I will just use the variable to display, right? So here you can see we are not able to see the variable. If you will go below, you can see this is the var results. I will drag the result. So whatever will be the value, it will display then the log. So click outside, click on save button to save. So now go back to the integration. We have to activate the integration. You can see the integration is in draft mode because there is having one error. So I got to know that the error is related to the tracking variable because it's mandatory to have at least one tracking variable for each and every integration. So I will add tracking variable for some. So we'll get from query parameters that operation, right? So this got added. So now everything is fine. Status is configured. Save the connect, save the integration, and just go back. So here I will just activate the integration. Activate. Now integration is activated. So let's run the integration. So once we will run the integration, while running the integration, you will be able to see all these parameters, right? So all these are called as URI parameters, and there is two category of URI parameters. The first category is the template parameters, another one is the query parameters. Now let me provide the value. So first value I will provide as 10, second value I will provide 6, and now operation I will provide AWDF. That's the capital add we use, right, in our integration to add the condition. So I will just click on run. So you can see the value we passed, that value merged here, that is 10, 6, and this is our parameters name with the value as add. So if you will see integration completed successfully, if you click on is the I icon, you can see it is 16. So 10 plus 6 is equals to 16. Right, even here you can see we added the variable. We added the assign one to create variable. So once we'll expand, you will be able to see that variable var underscore result was assigned with dual. So that is the null. So we didn't provide any value to that var result. Now after that, here you can see we have the condition. So we added the switch, right? So you can see the message entered switch. So control move inside the switch, and inside the switch we added various condition, and the condition which will be true, it will display here. So the condition P operation is equals to add got true, and when this got true, it will go inside, and inside we added the assign endpoint with the name as assign add. And if you will expand, you will be able to see the variable where result was assigned with 16. that is 10 plus 6. So if I will pass anything here, instead of 6, I will pass 16. So it will be 10 plus 60 is equals to 70. You can see. And here in the logger also we are providing the same. So you can see this is 70. And inside this one, if you will go to the variable, you can see where result was assigned by 70. So now this time let's use a sub for subtract. So click on run. It will pass this value. It will check the value based on this sub value, and it will subtract 10 minus 60. It will be minus 50. So it will display that result here, right? So you can see which condition got through. The condition P operator is equals to sub got through, and the value of that variable is minus 50. Same you will find in the logger, right? So now the third one, we will try for multiplication, MUL. So if you will provide mul, so 60 into 10 is 600, right? So you will be able to see the value here. It's running. So you can see the condition got through, that is P operation is equals to mul. And if you will expand, you can see the variable assigned name is assigned mul, that the endpoint, that assigned endpoint, and the variable where result was updated with 600. So that's the logic using if switch statement and assign we added. If we will provide any incorrect values, right? For example, divide, div. So div is we have not added, right? So if you will click here, so it will move to the otherwise block. It will not move any condition because div is not added in the condition. So you can see message inside switch control go inside the move inside the switch, and inside that it's executed message root through switch root with condition otherwise. Why? Because we have not added the condition for div, so it's not going to pass condition for add, not for subtraction, not for multiplication. That's why control will move by default to otherwise. In the otherwise we added the condition a message as where result whatever the operator was provided, the operator you provided is not correct. Same you will be able to see in the logger, the operator you provided is not correct. So this is the quite simple integration which we created, where we got to know about the assign, we got to know about the switch action by which we can add the conditions and all. So thank you so much everyone for joining this session. If you have any other queries and you want to ask anything, the stage is open for you. You can unmute yourself and you can ask. Thank you so much again for joining. Let's continue the question and answer session.